evening and welcome to Scale Smart Live. I am so glad to have you here tonight. I am Taja M. Graham. I am your host, but also founder and CEO of Ops IQ, which is a newly developed platform helping growth minded founders who are looking to scale make certain that their processes and how their structure is consistent for the growth they're looking for. We look forward to launching next month in January. For those that are wanting to be a part of that exposure, please go and visit us at opsiq.biz. Sign up to be one of the first to learn how to utilize the platform and be a part of our founders circle. But the platform is designed where it's going to give you a really good library of tools and resources. It also comes with a curated C-suite of advisors that'll work alongside of you as you are looking to grow in that scale. And we will have a real-time dashboard available to you so that you can see that growth in obviously real time. So I am so grateful for that opportunity tonight. As a part of some of the things that we have been doing with Scale Smart Live is giving you those thought leaders in different areas and aspects of how to help you with your business. So tonight we're going to talk about all things sales and marketing and how to really make that alignment and those tangible things stick so that you can see the revenue growth that you're looking for. And I am so delighted to have one of my close friends and someone that I trust. We share a lot of likeness in our approach to sales, which is also near and dear to my heart. But I'm grateful to have Jonathan Gravis here with me tonight with Gravis Marketing. Jonathan has an extensive background in how to bring forth the understanding of sales and how to do it in a storytelling approach and strategic growth standpoint. So he's going to be able to really help you to navigate in this space during our conversation tonight. I ask that you please ask your questions, put your comments in the comment section, and we'll be able to address that. But without further ado, I want to bring forth Jonathan Gravis, JG Gravis. JG, I am so delighted to have you here tonight, my friend. Tell us a little bit more about your journey.
Oh, I'm really excited to be here as well. My journey has been pretty steady, almost 30 years in advertising sales, really sitting in every chair at billboard companies across almost 30 years. Found myself looking for what I wanted to do when I grew up, and my son had started a marketing services company and decided he wanted to focus on the out-of-home segment and wanted me to join. So my boss is my 22-year-old son, and I haven't had this much fun in years. So my experience is in building and growing sales teams. I've done it for 23 of my years of my career, and for 5 companies across 6 markets. So really excited to be able to share some of that learning with you.
Yeah, I'm grateful to have you on tonight. I was sharing, both of us have some similar background expertise of serving, a major media or outlet of sorts and building teams. That's kind of like our passion, that people side of the talent of what we do, right? So I'm looking forward to having this conversation, but I would be remiss if I did not share with this audience tonight that I'm grateful that as you go to opsiq.biz, you're going to see firsthand the handiwork of Gravis Marketing, because they are the ones that took my vision from my head and put it into the World Wide Web. So I'm grateful for what they have done. And if you want some help with your website development, this is the team to go to. So go and visit them at gravismarketing.com so that you can actually be able to call on JG and enlist their services. So that grateful to have you here. Let's talk a little bit about our topic tonight: scale with intention, sales strategy, and seamless delivery. Give us some high thoughts before we go into the actual individual topics, Jonathan. But where do you see that, and how does this topic evolve for us tonight?
Yeah, I really think that it's the combination of sales and marketing is the differentiator. So at a really high level, oftentimes what we see is that those operate in separate silos and don't speak, together a lot. And I look at sales as more of a tactical function. Obviously, there is some strategy involved, but by and large, it's tactical. And marketing is very strategic by nature. So lending some strategy to your sales efforts is a growth multiplier. And being able to do that with intention gives you the ability to scale. So we have taken what I've learned and what you've learned over our careers and now funneling it into Gravis Marketing and helping companies like OpsIQ do the same thing, scale with intention.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the audience, even if you haven't built out a significant sales team, right? Say, for instance, you and might be one other person, the things that we're going to share tonight can absolutely be used amongst that 1 to 2 team player approach. So I don't want anybody to think, oh, this is way beyond me. I don't have, the sophistication of 10 plus sellers and a sales leader that's coaching and developing them. We want to give you tactical steps that are going to help you tonight. So let's start with our first topic. Yeah.
So let me add to that and say that over my career, I've managed teams as small as 2 sellers and a little over $1 million budget to a team of 21 sellers and a $50 million budget. And what I figured out pretty quickly was that the zeros on the back end didn't impact the amount of work that you were doing. So if you've just got 1 seller or you just have a couple, it's just as relevant for you as if you've got 20 to 50.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm grateful that you referenced that, because that is important. It's the tactics and the approach is still the same, no matter what the revenues are. So good point tonight. So let's step into our first topic for tonight: building sales teams that scale. So talk to us a little bit about your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I think it has to start with a vision. The leader has to have a vision for what revenue success looks like. And then I think the next step is evaluating your existing team. We've got to make sure we've got the right people on the bus. We've got to make sure that we are hiring appropriately. I've always looked at scaling a sales team as being reflective of the market that I operate in. I've been in Atlanta on and off for 15 years. When I got here, we had a team that was, from a racial makeup, was primarily white, and we're in the number 2 African-American market in the United States. So very intentionally, we looked to add African-American sellers to our staff because our staff needed to be reflective of the community that we were serving. So starting with a vision, understanding what the revenue goal is, then understanding the needs, where you're good and where you need help on your sales team. And then the next step would be building out that sales team. You've got to hire with intention. And then you've got to onboard in a way that gets a seller up and moving in an optimal time frame. So that's kind of how I look at putting together the sales team from a high level. And again, you'll see that that's kind of duplicative. And a lot of my leadership strategy is understanding what the vision is, setting the vision with the team's help, and then getting the right people on the team.
Yeah. It's so timely to me. Just this morning, I was having a conversation with a client that was like, oh, I just met this person. They're really good at sales and they've closed this. And I'm like, appreciate. I really love the background. However, how do they fit in your puzzle today?
That's right.
Or how do they help in fitting to what you're trying to get to tomorrow? So to your point, right? Like really understanding what that roadmap is, where you want to take your business, and then how does that player help you to get to that goal? It's not just a numbers thing. Like there's other things that you have to consider, right?
Yeah, you have to have diversity of experience as well. It's not just, having your team reflect the market that you're serving, but it's also making sure that you have a variety of experience levels. One of the first management lessons I learned in sales management was not everybody's going to do it like me, and that's okay. And so having people that have a variety of experiences brings a variety of clientele to the mix. New people don't necessarily have the same blinders on that somebody with 20 or 30 years experience does. They're going to be able to open up segments of the market that maybe you hadn't thought of. So it's, I think, intentionally making sure that you've got a variety of experience in there.
Yeah, that's a good point. I thought I saw a question. This is a good question for us to tackle as we're talking about scaling and building sales teams. What separates a sales hire that drives scale from one that just holds a seat? You've been here before.
It's as the leader, you've got to define what the expectations are, right? And then you've got to hold people accountable to that. And when I build expectations, I do it with the team. And so I've sat down with the team and said, okay, what are the 3 to 5 things that our best sellers have to focus on day in and day out to be successful? And then we determine what looks good in each of those metrics. And then you've got an accountability that the team has built, not that leadership has rolled out.
Yeah. What are the things that you use to ensure that you are seeing accountabilities to those expectations? Like, are there systems? Are there places that you go to that you can say, okay, this person is performing, and not just at the ladder of they hit a budget, right? But how do you know that they are successfully on track?
When you define them, well, let me back into it and say what I've done is I've turned it into an MVP program in other places. So I've set expectations, then I'm gamifying it so that there's some buy-in and there's some reward for success beyond, the commission structure. And that tends to bring that buy-in more readily than any other way.
Yeah. Let's step back a little bit because that was a good question, but I want to go back to actually recruiting said talent, right? Because for someone who's, scaling up, this might be their first time actually hiring, or they might have made some bad hires because that happens too. What are places that you look to or that you source for what are the best talents in the sales? Like, how do you go about that process?
Well, I've been in media for most of my career, so I tend to look at people with experience in out of home or experience in media. Understanding audiences can be really important. I look for 3 things in a sales rep. I look for the ability to connect and communicate. I look for the ability to overcome rejection. Right. And then I'm drawing a blank on the third piece. Burning curiosity would be my number 3. So having the ability to or the desire to learn about your client's business because it's about them, not about us. So I think those are the 3 things. And then from an interviewing standpoint, I think it's important to ask about the experience. Tell me about a time that anybody can fudge on a generic question, but when you actually when you frame the questions in terms of tell me about a time or sharing an experience, you really get to the heart of the characteristic that you're trying to hire for.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about I know this happens. Oh, wait a minute. We had a question. I'm sorry. I'm a little behind here, but how do you approach accountability in a way that motivates rather than micromanages?
Yeah, I think micromanaging is in the eye of the beholder. And, I think it's it comes up as, again, losing my train of thought here. Let's go back to the original question there.
Yeah. So holding them accountable with motivation without micromanagement. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do that by engaging the team and setting the accountability. If I'm doing it in a silo, I'm not always going to capture what's important to the sellers because that is important. And so if I engage them in that process, then by default, it's not micromanaging. it's engaging them in that process.
Yeah, yeah. And I think too, innately, what makes also a good salesperson is the ability to problem solve.
Yeah.
Sometimes you've got to be that problem solver. And so when you have the ability to problem solve alongside of them, it gives them the ability to have more of that buy-in, be it that they're challenged with the process themselves, and that's where you can lend support, right, in that problem solving of how to help them overcome those hurdles without it becoming micromanageable. I've often said, the best sellers, to your point, are not going to be just like I am and how I approach sales. And so I have to be adaptable to coaching them in the style that works best for them as well. So
Well,
that's a
and
very good point.
sales is now almost a project management job, because
Mhm.
it's not just going out and evangelizing your product. It's being intentional about, okay, what's my strategic approach? It's coming in on the back end. In our worlds, it's how do you put together the proposals? How do you handle fulfillment? How do you connect the dots and maintain communication across the whole sales cycle
Mhm.
with your prospect and your client?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I know one question that comes up often with me with founders is, okay, what's the right pay structure for this person that I'm bringing on board?
Yeah.
What should I be accounting for? Or is it commissions only? Is it
Yeah.
salary base and commissions? What's the right mix?
Well, I think the biggest thing in any compensation plan is that it's got to tie the organizational goals to the individual seller goals, right? So if I've got if I'm just paying a flat commission, but I'm looking to grow 10% as an organization, or 20%, I've got to put some methodology in place or components to the comp plan that are going to align those strategic objectives from a corporate level to what I'm expecting from an account executive. And the best compensation plans have been the ones that really clearly showed a seller where the money can be made, and where the money can be made in the plan generally needs to be tied to the strategic objective.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very, very good. Let's go to our next topic. Bridging the gap between marketing strategy and revenue execution. Ooh, this is a good one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Marketing's got to be a partner with whoever the revenue leader is. Um, you've got to work hand in hand. I made the reference earlier that sales tends to be more tactical and marketing strategic. Marketing is going to bring a layer of sophistication to your sellers that they need to be able to do their jobs appropriately. So making sure that marketing and sales are aligned is really important. It was really beneficial to my sellers that I had a great relationship with our head of marketing at various places that I've been. That relationship has been intentional on my part, because I'm not a content creator, I'm not a graphic designer, I'm not a research specialist, and marketing is all of those things. And so when you align a strategic sales leader with a strategic marketing leader, again, that's a force multiplier in terms of revenue growth and the ability to um, give your sellers the content that they need to be able to do their jobs effectively. And that can be as simple as vertical categories to call on and a playbook for those. It can be an outreach cadence based on research in your market segment. It can be, specific email outreach content. Um, all of those things are very specific to the sales process, and using those in the different stages.
Yeah. How does that look? Now I'm going to flip the script from being the sales leader of an organization. Now I want to focus in now as you being, in ownership of your own with Gravis Marketing. How is that transferable, relatable to
Yeah.
what you're doing to grow what is the clientele of Gravis Marketing?
Yeah. So I look at lead generation as a really important function on both sides, on marketing and on sales. And the core of that is your website. It should be the portal that people go to find out all the information about you, right? One thing we know about buyers today is that there's never been more information available at their fingertips, and buyers are more educated today than they ever have been. And so being able to have that content ready and have it generating leads, right? Using your social media, using your advertising strategically to funnel people back to website being one of several that you could talk about. But you bring that portal in, it generates a form fill, which is a lead for your sales team. Sales can then dive in and they have a little bit of information based on the form fill, so that it's not really a cold outreach. It's somebody that has made an intentional outreach to your company.
Yeah. How do you incentivize more of that to ensure that you're getting a nice pipeline in that inbound strategy?
Well, I think you have to have a vision for what good looks like, understanding what the goal is, and then back into the strategy and the tactical components to achieve that vision. So it's using all of the tools at our disposal. It's, paid ads, it's social, it's being able to retarget, it's using all of those channels. But, from a sales standpoint, what we've found out is that it takes, on average, historically, it's been 5 to 7 outreaches to a return. And, over COVID, that extended a bit, right? I think it's coming back down. Those touches are coming back down. But if it's 5 to 7 touches or 7 to 9 touches, whatever you determine is the right number, then that gives you the ability to set the outreach cadence. So whether that's drop-ins or phone calls or email outreach or LinkedIn outreach or social media, you're using all of those channels to make sure that you're getting those 5 to 7 touches, because most sellers will quit after 2, maybe 3, right? Or they're sending an email this month and they're making a phone call next month, and then LinkedIn connection request the 3rd month. So we've got to set a cadence that uses all of the tools at our disposal. It's going to allow the sellers to figure out how our customers want to be interacted with. And then we're able to move forward and in the sales process. So you got to be really intentional with setting that vision and understanding what the outreach can look like. And again, you've got to engage marketing in that content. They can help at all of those stages.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I saw a question from Warren, I believe it was, if we could get that question. How do you personally measure whether a marketing campaign is truly supporting business development? That's a good question, Warren. Appreciate that one.
Yeah. I like that question because it's not my decision as a salesperson on what we need to measure for success. I often ask that in a customer needs analysis at the very beginning of the sales process. How are you going to measure the success of this advertising campaign? How are you going to measure the success of, buying this piece of equipment? What's the ROI? How are you going to determine that? So marketing's no different. How do you plan to monetize this? What does good look like? Is it website visits? Is it the number of people that are going into your store if you've got a retail store? There's a number of different ways to measure it. Is it, brand lift using a customer survey? How are you going to measure that, right? Defining that on the front end is really important.
Yeah. And I'll add to this that oftentimes what I find is the most challenging before you can even get to that metric is how intentional is your call to action, and being very specific as to what that call of action is. So if it is go visit website, right? Like you should then be able to pinpoint directly back to, I am looking for website visits. I'm looking to see if I saw that increase based upon what my marketing would suggest in the call to action. So being very intentional about that will allow you then to put your eyes in the right area for the metrics and the outcomes you are looking for. And then understanding, okay, now that we've got them to the website, kind of to what JG was saying earlier, then what is that next step? Like, I got the eyeballs here. Is it a form fill? Is it a, what is that that piece that connects? It's the next step of that process for you. So hopefully, Warren, that helps, and definitely add more comment or question if you'd like more detail on that, for sure.
It was good.
I don't
It
want
was good to see that one of our viewers is actually my son. I saw his name pop up.
I thought I saw Jonathan. Yes, we're so glad to have you here, sir.
My boss
For
is
sure.
checking in on me.
He's getting a thumbs up tonight. Let's go to our next topic. Scaling delivery without losing the personal touch.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
It's about the relationship, right? Like we're in this for I'm in this for a reason. I like building relationships, and your ability to deliver is directly related to the relationship that you have with your potential customer. And so from the outset, you've got to build that rapport and that connection. And then, it's, again, you have to operate from the standpoint that it's not about me and my company at Gravis Marketing. It's about Ops IQ and what Ops IQ needs to do as our client. And so framing things in terms of what's in it for our customers can be really important. And I think that gets lost quite a bit. I think the other thing is we've got to be intentional with the outreach. The outreach doesn't end with the sale. It is an ongoing relationship. Depending on the market that you're in, I'm in an area that we see a lot of repeat business. And so that relationship is really important to setting the table for that renewal and or that upsell. So I look at every interaction with a client as an opportunity to readdress the customer needs analysis, and then be able to upsell or pivot as we need to move the needle.
Yeah. How does that look? I mean, when you can have that one-on-one dialogue with a client where you can build that rapport and that relationship long term, but how do you see that playing out, JG, amongst when you have, a platform like Ops IQ where there's going to be, hopefully, hundreds of subscribers at a given time? How do you keep it personable amongst, a larger clientele base that's virtual?
Yeah, I think that is difficult, and I think it's got to be multi-tiered. I love this ability to get experts in the door and have a conversation. This becomes very personal when you've got your outreach. The outreach tends to be really personal. So for an organization like Ops IQ, making sure that the end of the conversation isn't them signing up for Ops IQ, but it's ensuring that they understand where the resources are. It's ensuring that they know where to find them. It's asking the question of, what do you need from Ops IQ? So I think there's got to be an ongoing feedback loop that allows business owners to understand if they're on the right track with their customers. So whether that's, I worked for a company years ago that put a customer survey on the back of their printed invoices. Mm-hmm. And periodically we would get, a review of sorts, through the invoicing. I thought that was a really smart idea. How can we manufacture these touch points to get feedback? Because feedback is a gift, and it allows us as business owners to tailor our solutions to the right audience and to what the audience needs.
Absolutely.
But it's intentional. It's intentional communication, whether that's in a group setting or an individual setting or a vertical setting.
Yeah. And I've heard you reference that now across all three topics: intentionality in how we measure the marketing to the sales effort, intentionality in who you're hiring and why they are in the seat that you are looking for, right? And now intentionality in those touch points of making certain that it's personalized and feels like it is an open conversation. It is all about that intentionality and the consistency in how frequent you can do that, and making certain that you're addressing accordingly. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a very valid point.
Yeah. Well, it goes back. There's a strategic, theme here in set the vision, understand the strategy, build out the tactical objectives, and that will allow you to move forward. And that's applicable in all phases of business.
Yeah. When you talk about the strategy and the intentionality in that, where should the where should the founder set the baseline? Like where do they go to ensure that they have the right uh, place for that strategy to begin? Where do you see that to be within any business dynamic?
I think you have to be an expert in your own business first. Second, I think you have to have a board of advisors, the people that you trust that are going to shoot you straight no matter what the answer is, whether I want to hear it or not. They're going to tell me, exactly how they feel. And then I, as the leader, have to internalize that and make a set of decisions to determine what my vision is based on the feedback I've gotten from other people. That tends to be my process. I'm also, not to use intentional again, but I'm also very intentional about my self-education. So using LinkedIn Learning to understand digital marketing trends, right? Or whatever your business is, but the ongoing education and ongoing learning is going to be foundational. And I tell my son all the time as the CEO, he can't lose that big picture thinking. He's got to be the visionary. And so all of our founders need to be visionaries, and they need to continue that, right? Pull people in underneath you and beside you that are able to help facilitate that big picture thinking and give you the tactical advice and the strategic advice that you might need to set that vision.
Yeah, absolutely. And in that, I mean, I'm a strong believer that the vision has to be written, and that comes in
Yes.
the format of that business plan,
And
right?
I'm
Like
doing that right now.
I know you
You know?
are, but
Yeah.
it is so critical to have that plan mapped out, and not that the plan can't evolve as the business continues to evolve. Right? It might start one way, and you find it morphing into something else. I clearly had to go through that assignment, right? And going from what was a consultancy of one-on-one now to, okay, no, this is a tech platform. Now, what is that business plan and how does it address? And it is
Yeah.
okay to revisit that, because how I would have gone to market with a consultancy is very different than how I go to market with a tech platform. It's very different. And so therefore the plan has to be drafted in a way that it is building the strategy that speaks to that, right? Even when you're looking to take on a whole nother market segment, right? Like your sales strategy to that market might be different than what you have done in past with a different marketplace. And so having those alignments strategically and then the intentionality in it has to coexist. So I say starting with that ultimate, the business plan is going to help you. And I love how you brought alongside what is that advisory, right? Because that is important. It's important for you to be able to vet what is the business plan against that advisory, and then bringing alongside the expertise and skills of some of those like yourself, where you're needing the advice on sales and marketing strategy alongside is beneficial. So I love that full circle thinking
I,
as
I think it's I think
in
it's
the approach.
also as um, you're meeting new people and you're developing those relationships, being able to recognize where somebody's strengths and weaknesses are and how they might be able to help you can really go a long way. I think back to our first interaction, and it was, somebody I'd worked with 10 years ago had said that, you were in town, and I very quickly figured out, and I think you'd say the same thing, that you were somebody that would challenge me to think differently and think more broadly. And so I've included you in that, advisory board for me. And you don't know where that help is going to come from. You've got to be open to the relationships, and you got to be open and listen and have a good memory. So I like that part of it. To me, it goes back to the relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. And how to be able to, iron sharpens iron. So where, when we first connected, I was like, oh, this is someone I can lean in on and say,
Yeah.
hey, I'm having this thought, or what do you think about this? And just getting your perspective, because even though we've shared some of the same background journey, yours being in what was or has been in Billboard, mine being from the media side, there's some differentiators there that make you want to say, let me open up my preview and be exposed to what it is you've seen. And that's been very beneficial to me as well, for sure. Absolutely.
Well, and that ties back to hiring sellers, right? And the need to have a variety of backgrounds, because you're going to bring people with different sets of experiences. They're going to bring, a broader set of thinking. You can't just be insulated as a sales team and not bring in and challenge yourself with different and new ideas. You've got to be intentional with bringing people in that are going to challenge and grow.
Yeah. Well, and it's the growth, right? Because we oftentimes think, and as businesses, in order to be competitive, we must remain innovative, right? And having that diverse thought and different speaking voices allow for you to say, okay, let's take on that challenge. Let's stretch ourselves to become innovative so that we can lend in that space that this seller or this new product is taking us to, right? And that's the way you will scale. I do not see where you can just scale at what is current volume or current size of how you operate, right? Like, in order to do that, it's going to force you to say, I've got to think differently of how I can obtain more market share. Innovation is going to be at the catalyst of that, obviously.
Yeah, and you can't do it in a silo. You've got to engage other channels for internalizing that information.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely. Jonathan, give us what would be, we've talked on how to hire the right talent. We've talked on how to utilize marketing to ensure the sales outcomes that we're looking for, how they need to be more complement to each other, obviously. And then just in general, we've kind of covered the topic of the intentionality and strategy. But what would you say for someone who is, that growth-minded founder that is looking next year, they want to see some sizable growth, right? What would be the one thing you would say they should do today, December, what is today? The 2nd, right, of December, in preparation going into 2026 that will help them in that one thing or a couple of things to getting to the goal that they want in that growth?
The timing is really good right now, and I think it has to start with the vision. Understanding where you want to go will allow you to back into how to get there. And so having the right vision, I think, is paramount to the whole discussion. It affects every aspect of your business. So making sure that your vision aligns with operations, with sales, with finance, with fulfillment, can be really important. So that's the one thing that I really want to impress on people is having that vision, being a big picture thinker, being bold. It's okay to put an outsized goal out there for yourself. You'd be surprised. They should be challenging but attainable. But challenge yourself to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. Yeah. But is it the big audacious goal? Like,
Right.
how big can you dream it up and then force yourself to step back through strategically to getting to those steps
Yeah.
in a backwards math kind of way.
And
Absolutely.
we just did it. Jonathan, my son, set the vision. He said, okay, by the end of 2028, I want over $1 million in revenue. Okay. How are we going to get there? Right. So then we're able to layer in the strategy and the tactical objectives.
Yeah, it doesn't baffle me. Because I know it happens often, but those that have a business plan that haven't even revisited the business plan in the past 6 months.
This
Like,
is the third time I've done it in the last 6 months.
yeah, yeah. And you probably are finding yourself saying, "Oh, we got to tweak this a little bit because we're
Yeah.
seeing this happening." It's forcing you to think a little bit differently as to what's in the plan.
And I would
Absolutely. Not
challenge
that the
people.
whole plan goes for naught, right? But there's certain elements that you have to reconsider and say, how does this work now?
What are the three things that I have to accomplish next year? And what are the three things that I have to do next year to accomplish my vision?
Yeah.
Right. Define it. These are the three things that I've got to get done. These are the three biggest priorities.
Yeah. How does that translate then down to the team? You were sharing how you and Jonathan, how do you translate that down to your team, especially the sales team?
Yeah, so I had to come up with a vision and a plan when I was in Charlotte, and I engaged the team in the big picture components of the plan right at the beginning, and then at set stages, I engaged them and gave them an update on how the components of the plan were coming together and what execution was going to look like. And then we communicated along the way. Once we started executing, we started doing you can call it a town hall, you could, whatever kind of update. And I gave an update on, here are the objections and here's where we are objectives and here's where we are in each of these objectives. So it's intentional communication. It's communicating before, during, and after. What that does is it makes sure that everybody in the organization is aligned. How often have we heard stories of, I think the guy that is getting ready to take over at Walmart as CEO started as somebody that was stocking shelves. How often has that happened? So, don't discount hourly employees or the janitorial staff, or we need to engage the whole organization, and we should do that as a team, and we should take that input seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. Jonathan, JG, I am so grateful to have you on the show tonight. I think we have, I know that this is a hot topic, obviously, how am I going to grow revenue? Having that strategy, being intentional and being consistent are the three key words that I would say tonight. Is going to help you to get there. If you are absolutely enjoying this conversation, be a part of it on LinkedIn, which is where you are tonight. Join us there, and then make certain that you also go to opsiq.biz, see the handiwork of Gravis Marketing, taking what is my vision and bringing it to life, and sign up to be a part of the Founder Circle there. As we get ready for the big unveiling of all of what the platform will have to offer in January. So, Jonathan, I appreciate you being here with us tonight.
I've had a great time. I appreciate the opportunity to share what is really my favorite subject.
Thank you again, and good evening to all of you that were here with us this evening. Thanks so much.
Thank you.